When it comes to Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2, it moves beyond the shock value of a murderous childhood icon and tries to add depth to its characters. So to summarize the film, it's been about a year since the 100-Acre Woods massacre, and nearly the whole town of Ashton, sans Christopher's friend Lexi, thinks Christopher killed everyone. Christopher maintains his innocence, and thankfully there isn't enough evidence out there to put him away. However, as the newly introduced Owl, alongside Winnie the Pooh, Piglet, and also the newly introduced Tigger begin to leave the woods and kill locals, soon everyone will know who really committed the crimes in the woods. All the while, Christopher ends up learning the origins of Winnie the Pooh and his friends. So, get into the review section. Notable highlight is that this is a gruesome movie. And I'm talking about far more gruesome than that Saw disappointment that we saw last year. For Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2, it more than compensates for what that film lacked. From skulls being craved in to the depiction of people being decapitated, just utterly gruesome scenes that make the idea of eating while watching the film sound like the most disgusting combination. I got what I needed as a fan of horror, especially horror with gore, and actually I might have got far more than I needed. Getting to the regular highlights. What this movie does, as much as it has very gory scenes, I feel like it left behind the shock value of a childhood icon doing these type of things and tried to make this film into something more, if not this film franchise or universe. But with the first Blood and Honey, it was clear that it was all about taking a $100,000 budget, doubling down on the craziness that made horror such a big genre when it first started to really gain traction, and with it making about $5.2 million, easily you could imagine that the second movie would have been a don't break what wasn't needing fixing or whatever. But instead, between Frake-Waterfield and his co-writer Matt Leslie, they don't take the easy and lazy road here. Instead, they craft the origin story for Pooh Bear and the others, they create something with intrigue, and they push the idea that Christopher Robin's connection with Pooh is far deeper than what the cartoons or even the storybook depicted. And you can see between the writers, they knew to keep people interested, to grow this franchise, if not make a whole universe. They couldn't just rest on the work that A.A. Milne and Disney made forever. If they're going to truly utilize this property as a public domain entity, they had to go beyond the mask that reminded you of the cowardly lion from The Wizard of Oz, or horror tropes like excessive violence and women in skimpy clothing. And while I will say that the film maybe doesn't answer all the questions that you have, I mean, more than likely, this is going to become a trilogy, and the third movie can easily fill in the gaps. Which leads us to the last topic, which is an on-the-fence topic, and that's just, when it came to Christopher Robin's friends and family, I will submit the time it took to establish Christopher's parents, his sister, even push the idea that Lexi could be a love interest, it isn't really utilized to the film's benefit. Is it good to establish them and show that Christopher has a life outside of whatever Winnie the Pooh's doing to him? Absolutely. However, because of how interesting the Pooh and everybody else's backstory is, it makes you frustrated that essentially all that all that Christopher's family and friends sort of become they're pretty much just fodder, because for the most part a lot of them die, so it's like you don't get to know them enough to feel an emotional connection to make their death meaningful, yet at the same time the film spent so much time on them that it's like you could have done so much more with Pooh rather than with these people who are not even gonna make it to the third film, and honestly didn't present anything to make them seem deserving to even be considered. But overall, while Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey seems to take notes from films such as Friday the 13th and desires to not just present a horror slasher with notable violence, but also create a tragic figure whose violence may not be justifiable, but whose story is unquestionably unfortunate, you get a film that I think really earns its existence as a sequel and definitely pushes the idea that it is worthy of having a trilogy, though I'm still a little bit unsure about the idea of it becoming a full franchise, which includes Bambi and other properties that are going to take advantage of people's childhoods.